Hi, we're here with Steve Sartori with Altamont Beer Works with the Craft Brewers Conference 2023 here in Nashville, Tennessee. And just thought we'd take some time and talk to Steve a little bit about his brand, Altamont Beer Works. Yeah. And just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what made you get started in the beer industry.
Previously was in kind of a more extreme sports industry. And obviously back in 2008, 2009, as the economy crashed, things started getting pretty hairy, and luxury toys and items were going negatively.
Right.
So ended up moving back home to Livermore, my hometown where I was born and raised. I was up in Sacramento. I went to college in Sac State. So stayed up there for a couple of years after, and then came back home and worked for a family business. My dad owned a company. Been in our family 90 plus years. So did that for a few years and missed doing sales, talking to people. I didn't like running a trucking company in an office. So decided I was gonna start a brewery. I kind of got into home brewing. Had an unfortunate serious back injury that left me kind of semi-paralyzed for a while, I guess, kind of sort of couldn't drive for a while. And my dad was running an errand on our way home from work, and it said make beer at home, and I was like, well, I'm kind of stuck at home for a little bit. Might as well make some beer. And then, just steadily got more and more involved. And as you guys know a little bit, our town has a ton of wineries. I think we're up to 65 plus wineries. So at the time I was, 26 and out of college and, getting into home brewing. And I'm like, why don't we have a brewery? We have a town full of wealthy people that love to drink and party. And a lot of them work at home because they're tech industry and stuff. And I was like, I should start a brewery and, talk to a couple people. And most told me I was crazy and stupid. I was 26. My dad told me that as well. Mom was really excited, but I decided to take the risk and do it. And here we are 10 years later now.
Yeah. Awesome.
So first brewery since before Prohibition, the first one burned down, and then there was no brewery until then. So we did have a brewery back when it was like a dirt road, and
Back in the good old days.
Yep. So we were the first brewery, and now we've had a few go under, but we had 6 at one point, a couple went under. We have 4 now, I think, still. So yeah. So we're trying,
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about the Altamont Beer Works brand. What did you build? Tell us about the brand.
Yeah, so when I got started, I myself was, at the time, when I homebrewed, I brewed a lot of pale ales and IPAs. Obviously, the last 10 years, we've seen a hype in IPAs more than ever, So when we first started, people really knew us as a hoppy brewery. It's just the young kids making their hoppy beers. Well, at the time, we only had 4 tanks. I had to utilize what we had. And I needed to pay back the money I borrowed. So I'm like, we got to make beer that people sell, or that's going to sell, So we definitely were known for the hoppy brewery for a while. Over the last 5 years, really, when we've increased capacity, we've been really stepping into doing a lot more, like our Mexican lager. We have a big lager program now. When we had more space before we put a bunch of tanks in, we used to do a lot more barrel aging stuff. That's all been put on hold for canning now with beers that, we need to turn quicker. But when I started it, it was kind of, craft beer was in a weird place 10 years ago. It just seen a downturn. Then it started creeping back up, and I really wanted to create a brand that, for me, especially coming from the extreme sports industry, it's I wanted to create a brand where people wanted to wear our shirts, where they wanted to collect our cans. We grew up seeing the generic Lakes and Mountain beer labels, the hops, and which is all classic and great. But I was like, I'm 26 years old, and I'm coming from the snowboard and wakeboard industry. I want some branding. So John, who's the chief of our marketing, he's been with us since day one. He didn't work officially for Altamont. I kind of paid him on the side, but he literally designed our first logos before we even had the brewery. And John's still with us every day. That him and Todd, obviously, with your guys' crew. I'm so glad we're able to switch to digital everything now, because trying to deal with the Flexo on colors with how much artwork John does was.
You guys do amazing.
Yeah, so when we were able to go down to your guys' factory, I guess kind of right at the beginning of COVID, and got to see the new digital presses and work with the team. It's like super fun, and for John to be able to geek out and change artwork just right on the fly and be able to see it print and do a press check right then was super cool. So we've developed a brand now. I mean, and especially during COVID, we canned 50 different beers that I never would have ever expected to can. And I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of labels that Todd got us that we're never going to brew them ever again. We literally just cleaned out the warehouse. We're like, that's never going to happen again unless we have another pandemic. But let's keep our fingers crossed.
But that's the joy of beer. You guys can kind of move. And
yes. It was a lot of shifting the last 3 years, and a lot of, figuring it out and just changing on the fly.
So we talked a lot about Jonathan, that how important is it that he has that ability to go to your label partner?
It's huge. He goes down there a lot more. I wish I could go more with him. But it's huge, especially for us, like a lot of the metallics, a lot of the, flat width metallic and the, even when they start talking about the different bops and stuff, and I'm just like, you guys, that's you guys, you guys do that. But for John to be able to go down and do like a press check and be able to go and touch and feel a label is awesome. We also did, they knocked it out of the park with the whiskey label when we did the Mallory whiskey. That was a very much smaller scale, but high end, front and back label. And they did, the back label was like your classic, beautiful, DeBoss, like cool label. But then we had, when you look through the bottle, there was the tiki guy that you can see through the whiskey. So it was pretty unique, pretty cool. So I know John definitely went down there for that. And they dealing with that flexing side was really cool. And Todd and I were just talking about that at dinner last night. Like seeing those ladies run those crazy wine labels, that was insane. Like the amount of time it takes to do one of those high-end wine labels.
Well, it sounds like we've been able to grow together, really.
Yeah.
Support you and like the changes. And
lots been changing over the past few years with you guys and growth, and so, but it's been amazing to work with y'all.
Okay, so Steve, what's your favorite beer out of your lineup?
I guess if there was a gun to my head, I'd probably say Maui, which is right here. Pretty much 60% of our production, which is crazy. We'll probably hit 21,000 barrels this year.
Oh, wow.
About half of that will be just Maui, whether drafted and packaged. But we've been doing a lot of cool new beers too. This Mexican lager's really been taking off now. So that's been becoming a favorite of mine as well. So it's nice to have one, it's nice to have both in the fridge. You're working in the yard, you go for the dish, you're sitting down at the end of the night, you have milk.
There we go. You got it covered.
And then during COVID, we just did so many beers. That was the only way to survive.
You just got to keep pushing it out.
It was a lot of pressure on Todd and you guys. We were literally printing new labels every week. It was crazy. The art guys, they were having fun. They were excited. But when the digital press went down, then it got scary.
Well, that can happen.
And then we have Paragon bales out a little bit, which is cool.
Which is beneficial to have multiple locations.
Huge for that.
So if you could speak a little bit about having the right partner, whether it's in labels or canning part of it, just the value of a partnership, a vendor partnership.
I would say it's never been more important than the last 3 years.
Crazy times.
Just with delays and sicknesses and things shutting down, especially where we're at, right? We went through it worse. Our counties were up and down, and shutting down, and so it was tough. And to be able to communicate, with Todd, having the local rep, was amazing. I think he's communicating with John every day, and then I get looped into some of them, especially when there's an extra delay or something, because Todd knows he's going to hear from me regardless, so he'll loop me in. But to be able to work with you guys, even just to go down, even to talk with Larry and stuff, and Mike, it's like they walk us through going, you guys, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. It's like that goes a long way, where other label manufacturers, like online or whatever, you're not going to know you get. It shows up, and you're like, hey, man, that doesn't look good. They're like, oh, sorry, we'll give you 10% off the next order, where you guys have been awesome to work with on that side.
Well, good.
Communication. Luckily, I guess for us, we have 2 spots right next to us, so that within an hour or two. So, but it's been super beneficial. So. But like I said, I think just over the years, just the transparency of the last few years. It's like, hey, like, Todd even say, hey, 20 people got COVID at the shop. Like, we're going to be behind. But when they're back, we're going to run 24/7 over a weekend and get you caught up. So.
I think that's great. I mean, when you have a partnership.
Yes.
Because it is a give and take, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's been plenty of times where we've screwed up.
Right.
And we haven't sent our work, but we're like, we need this in 4 days. And Todd's like, let me see what I can do. And I would say probably 80% of the time you guys make it happen, which is amazing. And there's times where you can't, and that's totally okay. And, we own Todd. I mean, I will say they, down at our plant, they will do anything possible to get us. It's been very bad. Trust me, some of our old label vendors want our business back, and we're like, not happening. I'm sorry, not happening.